Good morning, children. Hope you all are hale and happy and taking very good care of yourself. Welcome to Session 2, Social Studies Paper 2, Chapter 20, Social Movements in Our Times. Today we are going to learn anti-nuclear and anti-war movements, SALT and START. Anti-nuclear and anti-war movements. The 1970s and 1980s saw a new kind of movement, the movement against war and nuclear arms. The entire world was witness to the horrors of nuclear bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. Despite this, leading superpowers like the USA, USSR, Britain, and France began building arsenals of nuclear weapons and justifying them as a means of deterring the other powers from using them. In the year 1970 and 1980s, a new type of movement was started by the people in all over the world. They were protesting against the war as well as using the nuclear weapons, because already the world was witnessed the horror of the atom bomb which was dropped by USA in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's having its impact not only then and there at that time only, even it's having its impact in the long run, where they make the soil barren, as well as it is having a serious health issues also on the people of those areas. Now, despite of knowing the horror of nuclear weapons, most of the superpowers, especially USA, USSR, they were already in the race to piling up of the nuclear weapon. Even Britain and France also joined this race. They're having their nuclear arsenals and they are spending a huge amount for making of nuclear weapons. Those were the days of intensive Cold War between the USA and USSR and America's war with Vietnam. The entire world was constantly under the fear of another world war. Thousands of scientists and intellectuals from across the world campaigned for abolishing all nuclear weapons and insisted that USA and USSR come to an agreement and end the futile arms race. Those days, 1970s to till 1990, there was an intensive period of Cold War between two superpowers, USA and USSR, and they were in a mad race of piling up of or investing more and more on the nuclear weapons. So it make the entire world to have once again to come under the threat of another world war. So because of the serious fear and all that, thousands of scientists and intellectuals, they came with the conclusion that these superpowers should stop acquiring weapons race, as well as they have insisted these two superpowers, USA and USSR, to stop this race and to come to an agreement where they can reduce the investment as well as piling up of the nuclear weapons. Here, throughout the world, they have started, intellectuals and scientists, they have insisted that nuclear weapons are immoral and illegal. And they have posted a lot of placards and the posters to bring an awareness about the anti-nuclear weapons. During the early 1970s, more and more American soldiers returned from Vietnam with serious doubts about the wisdom of bombing innocent people who in no way posed a threat to the Americans, as America was involved in a Vietnam war. And when the American soldiers they returned, they realized that there is no need to have any war involving or making a victim to these Vietnamese people. They are having a doubt that why we are killing the innocent people with the chemical weapons and all that. More and more Americans were also unhappy about sending their children to war in distant Vietnam, as America make it compulsory that every citizen, grown-up citizen, they have to render the services in military for a short period of time. So it create Americans very unhappiness that why they should send their children for killing of innocent people. Thus, mass protests swept across America against the Vietnam War, and this eventually forced the US government to end the war and leave Vietnam in 1975. So when the people were unhappy when the protest was started in America, in USA itself, against the Vietnam War. So the government has to withdraw its force from Vietnam in 1975, and it shows that the success of this campaign inspired peace movements across the world. So by having this instant, by getting a success when USA withdraw its soldiers from Vietnam and leave Vietnam in 1975, it inspires many peaceful movements all over the world against the anti-war. Here you can see they are insisting, the people in USSR also, that they should not be piling up the or invest more amount on nuclear weapons. No new wars, no to NATO. Companies which produce these arms called the military industrial complex, and the governments tried to create a war panic among the common people so that they could support greater expenditure of taxpayers' money on nuclear arms. Gradually, many people, especially in Europe, realized that war mongering and the consequent arms race only made the world more unsafe and increased the possibility of a disastrous war of all countries. So as the governments, especially the superpowers, they are investing more amount on the production of nuclear weapons, as well as the experimenting about the nuclear weapons, they have make the people to realize that this make the only a mad race of piling up of the arms and ammunition, which may be resulted that they are making the earth as unsafe place to live, not only to those people, even for the future generation. SALT, Strategic Arms Limitation Talks, START, Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. These are the two agreements which were signed between the USA and USSR to reduce their nuclear race, as well as to make an agreement where they can reduce their nuclear weapons to the 80%. As a result of these pressures, the USA and the USSR, the main competitors in the arms race, began talks to cut down their nuclear arsenal. Strategic arms limitation talks. This was for the first time these two superpowers tried to make an agreement, but this agreement was unsuccessful. And finally, a treaty was signed in 1991, which is called Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. I'll repeat, Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, START. So this first time in assault they were unable to get any sort of success, but the second treaty was signed finally in the year 1991, but it has been came into power only in 2001. START negotiated the largest and most complex arms control treaty in the history, and its final implementation in late 2001 resulted in the removal of about 80% of all strategic nuclear weapons which is in existence. So though the treaty was that is using or limiting the use of nuclear weapons to 80%. Though the negotiations has been started in the year 1991, but it started to implement in a real way, it was in the year 2001 only. As the USSR now in 1991, the USSR was dissolved, and its place a new Russia state was formed, which is insisting that it lead to the end of the long period of Cold War and the constant threat of a catastrophic world war. Here a treaty which was signed between the presidents of USA and USSR. During the last phase of existence, the USSR, a major accident took place in its nuclear plant in Chernobyl. This caused the death of a large number of workers in Chernobyl. Its effects created a new awareness among the people of the world about the danger of nuclear power, whether for peaceful or warlike purposes. One of a major accident occurred in the nuclear weapon arsenal in USSR, Chernobyl, which has caused the death of a large number of workers in that place, which make the people to get an awareness that how this nuclear can affect their life, and they make the earth as an unsafe place to survive. Here you can see the Chernobyl accident which occurred in USSR. It leads to the thousands of people died at that time. Let us have a quick recap, children. We have learned about anti-nuclear and anti-war movements, SALT, strategic arms limitation talks, and START, strategic arms reduction treaty. It's time for home assignment. Children, you have to explain how environmental issues occur due to nuclear weapons. Thank you.